guys, hopefully all of you are doing well. Today we're going to do a different type of video. I get questions all the time, either messages or questions saying, how can I figure out how much food to prepare for my son's birthday party or my July 4th party, which I got a question about that, and that's what prompted this video really, because it's really hard for me to explain that in the comments. So I decided to put this video together. That way you can learn this rule of thumb that I'm going to teach you. That way any party that you have, during any time of the year, you can use this, and that way you should be able to figure things out a little easier. Alright, the first thing we need to talk about is how many guests are we going to have. That includes immediate family, friends, and people who will plus one without telling you they're plusing one. Alright, so I'm going to say 30. Some of you already know you're in the 60 and 70 range at that point. But for the sake of this video, we're going to say 30. The next thing we want to figure out is what our menu is going to be. Now, it depends on your pocket. Now, I will say right now, don't let anybody shame you into having some large, elaborate menu that you cannot afford. It's good for you at this point to be honest with yourself and say, well, I can only afford to have 2 entrees. And that's fine. That's plenty. You don't have to let somebody else hold you to a certain rule or standard of what you have to offer, especially if it's coming out of your pocket. Now for this menu, what I've come up with is a barbecue, because that's what's approaching really soon. And here's the menu that I've come up with. We're going to have barbecue ribs, barbecue chicken, barbecue brisket, baked beans, and potato salad. All of this we're going to prepare for 30 people. The next thing we need to figure out are the portion sizes. How much is each person going to get? Now you can liken this to a restaurant that you go to all the time and think of your favorite dish. Your favorite dish that you order all the time, it's the same every time you order it, right? It has the same amount of chicken, the same amount of lettuce and carrots or whatever is on there. That's what we call in the restaurant industry a standardized menu. That menu at that level, at the restaurant level, has been priced out, and they do what we call cost per plate. So that's why that recipe is standard. That way anybody that makes it, they know how to make it, how much of each item to put on, and it comes out the exact same every single time. But here, we're just talking about setting a certain portion for each person. So, take a look at the menu, and here's what I've decided that each person is going to get, or we're going to allow up to each person to get. So for the ribs, we're going to allow 3 ribs per serving. So a serving size is 3 ribs. For the barbecue chicken, we're going to allow 2 pieces of chicken. For the brisket, we're going to allow 4 ounces per serving. And for the potato salad and the baked beans, we're going to allow up to 1 cup. Now, I know that you're saying, is every person going to be allowed all that food? In this case, yes, because we're planning on the higher side of things. Remember, you may have some guests that pop in or stop by, especially if that's how your friends tend to do things. They may just pop in. So that's going to ensure that there should be plenty for everybody to eat. 9 times out of 10, no, nobody's going to eat 3 ribs, 2 pieces of chicken, 4 ounces of brisket, a cup of potato salad, and a cup of beans. But if you portion it out this way, then this is going to tell you how much food to actually buy. Now, of course, you don't have to go by these measurements. You can say you want 2 ribs per serving or 4 ribs per serving. It doesn't matter. This is just going to help you as a guide to figure out how much food you actually need to go to the store and purchase. So now that we got our serving size figured out, let's go ahead and break the ribs down to see how many racks of ribs that we need. Here we go. On a rack of ribs, there are approximately 13 ribs per rack. We're going to take the number of ribs, which is 13, and we're going to divide that by the serving size of 3, and it's going to equal 4.33 servings per rack. So we're going to take 30 people, and we're going to divide that by 4.33, and that's going to equal 6.92 racks. We need 6.92 racks of ribs so that we can have plenty of ribs for all of our guests to have up to 3 ribs per person. So of course you're going to buy 7 racks. And if you want to, you can buy 8 if that makes you feel better. But this is the formula, or these are the types of steps that we need to take to figure out how much food we're actually going to need. Let's move on to the chicken. Since we allowed 2 pieces of chicken per serving, and we know that there's 8 pieces of chicken on a chicken, right? So that means it's going to be 4 servings per chicken. So let's take the number of people, which is 30, and divide that by 4. And that's going to equal 7.5 chickens. And of course, we would round that up to 8 chickens. So we should have plenty of chicken for everybody to have at least 2 pieces. Doesn't matter which pieces, leg and a thigh, wing and a breast, whatever, they can have up to 2 pieces. Let's move on to the brisket. Now, earlier we said that we're going to allow up to 4 ounces of brisket per serving. And we know we're going to have 30 people. So again, 30 times 4 ounces equals 120 ounces, which translated into pounds is 7.5 pounds. So that means we need about 8 pounds of brisket so that everybody can have up to 4 ounces of brisket. Remember, a brisket has fat in it, and depending on how fatty they are or how lean they are, the weight is what it is. So you're going to have some parts of the brisket that people may not eat, like the fatty part. So what you might want to do with briskets is round up to the 2nd pound. So if we need 7.5 pounds, I would go with 9 just to make sure I had enough. Once you start getting into feeding this many people, you really need to buy wholesale. You need to go to places like Smart and Final, Costco, Costco Business, Jet Rolls, any kind of wholesale place where you can buy in bulk. Now, I want to reiterate, these are portions that are helping us plan this party. And of course, we're not going to dump all of this food on the person's plate as they come through the line or as they go through the line. Chances are the average person won't pick up all this food on their first go round. People are going to get 1 rib, maybe a piece of chicken and some brisket. Or you got people that don't eat pork, so they're not going to eat the pork at all. They're just probably going to eat some chicken and some beef. So don't necessarily put all of this food on the person's plate as they go through the buffet. And you notice I'm saying put this food on the person's plate because it's probably a good idea to serve at your parties. Just depends on how large and if you want to be bothered. I always serve on the first go round. That way I make sure everybody gets what they want. Everybody's cool, and I'm seeing how people are taking the food. And then after that, we step back and then they can help themselves after that if they want seconds. But it's up to you. I'm just throwing that idea out there. Now, hopefully you guys can actually use some of this information because this has truly worked for me. I've had to use it on my job, which of course it helped me use it in my personal life when I helped my uncle with his birthday parties. And those parties get pretty big. I have a video on that where we fed about 300 people. And at the end of the night, actually, we did a count and it was roughly about 350 or 60 people that had run through the house over the course of the night. So this is what we actually sit and go through with my uncle to figure out, okay, well, how many ribs do you want to allow per portion? How much chicken do you want to allow per portion? And we go through these very steps. And then I figure out the math, and then we all go to the store together and we go and purchase everything we need. After you figure all this out and you figure out, wow, this is a lot, I'm going to have to be coming out of pocket for $500 or $600, then that's when you want to decide, do I really want to have a menu this large? Should I cut it down? Should I just do all ribs and do a pork rib and a beef rib? That way people have a choice. Or something like that. Doing the math like this will help you figure out whether you really want to do it all. You know what I'm saying? We haven't even got to cooking it all yet. But the money itself will help you decide, do I really want to do this? The other thing you can figure out, and you can say, well, I'll cook all the meat. I'll buy and cook all the meat, but I need to give up these sides to someone else. That's when you would call other relatives and say, hey, I need you to make 50 servings of potato salad or whatever it is. Put the load on someone else. That way you're not burdening yourself with the entire load monetarily and cooking. I wanted to keep this video as short and sweet as possible. That way I could get to the point, show you guys what you need to know. That way you can go ahead and do your shopping. If you've already done your shopping at this point, you can go back and look at what you have in the refrigerator, figure it out and see if you have enough. Or, you might be set, good to go. Or you may need to head back to the store to re-up on some items just to make sure that everybody has enough. Down in the description box below this video, I'm going to link 2 videos. One I did like 6 or 7 years ago, long time ago, explaining how to throw a party, whether it's in your backyard or in a venue, and I just give you some things you need to think about. That way you can decide whether you want to take that on. And then there's another video that I did after that where I showed just what it took to throw a large party like that for 350 people, what I had to do to plan, what we did when we went shopping, and then how I started prepping days in advance for an event like that. Okay? Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate it when you come cook and hang out with me and we sit here and try to figure out how much food we need for a party. There'll be other videos linked down below in the description area so that you can get some other tips and tricks. And I will see you guys next time. Be sure and check out part 2 and part 3 of this series where I show you how to read nutrition facts labels and how to multiply a recipe up.